Sam Smyers here. In today's video, I want to go over internal versus external sidechaining. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right, everyone, welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel because that will help you stay updated with future videos that are just like this. In this video, I'm going to go over a few different ways that we can use internal and external sidechaining. First, I'm going to go through the options that you have in Ableton Live 11, and then I'm going to go through the options that you would have in a third-party plugin like the FabFilter Pro C. You probably already know what sidechaining is, and if you think about sidechaining, what you're thinking of is probably external sidechaining. What I want to talk about mainly is what internal sidechaining is and how it is different from external sidechaining. Sidechaining means using an alternative audio source or signal to trigger the processing. Let's think about a compressor. You could have a compressor on a bass and then have the kick drum trigger that compressor so that the bass ducks down underneath the kick whenever that kick hits, making that kick really present in the mix. And what is making that bass duck down is the compressor clamping down every time that that kick hits. Let's go ahead and look at Ableton Live 11 here. If I open up this triangle here, and this is the same in Ableton Live 10, then this allows me to see my sidechaining options. Both of these are turned off now, but if I turn this on, then I have options to adjust the gain and also the mix so that I could actually have the mix being part of the original signal and then also part of the sidechain signal. And then the gain, I can adjust the gain if I want that sidechain signal to be louder or quieter. If I turn this off and just turn on this EQ filter here, then I'm just using the internal sidechaining. And this is something that bugs me about Ableton Live 11 is that it doesn't really specify whether you are using internal versus external sidechaining. Now basically, if I just have this EQ button turned on with this sidechain button turned off, I'm using the original signal from this drum loops here and applying a EQ filter and then using that signal with the EQ filter to trigger the compressor. If I go ahead and play this drum loop for you with the compressor turned off, now I will turn on the compressor. I'm going to apply heavy compression so that we can hear what it's doing. That is the compressor applied to the entire frequency signal of that drum loop. What I could do is I could turn on this EQ, and now I can apply an EQ filter to the signal. Let's say I only want that compressor to trigger for the top end of that drum loop, like the shakers and the hi-hat. Then I could use this low cut and turn on this headphone button. Let's listen to it now. If we take a look at this gain reduction meter, we see that gain reduction is being applied only when that top end is coming through because I essentially filtered out the kick from the signal. Let's go ahead and turn off this headphone button and now let's just listen to the track. And watch what happens whenever I turn off this EQ filter. Now you could hear that whenever I turn off the EQ filter, the compressor is being applied to that kick and it's compressing the kick. And this might be useful to use this internal sidechaining with this EQ filter if you have a drum bus and you want to apply some compression to that drum bus to control some of those top end transients, but not really compress that kick at all. You could use an EQ filter like this. And the opposite is true. You could use a high cut filter. And now let's check out the full loop. And there you would hear that kick being brought down, but that top end still being bright. And then whenever I turned off this EQ filter, then you could hear everything being reduced. If we use the FabFilter Pro C plugin, I can actually open up this sidechain option menu here, and then I can go to IN or EXT. IN stands for internal, and EXT stands for external. And this is essentially going to be the same thing as the stock Ableton compressor. If I do this internal, then I can apply the filters here, and I could do the same processing in this Pro C as I did in the Ableton Live 11 stock compressor plugin. So really this concept applies to these third-party plugins that have the option to apply the sidechaining like this, and also to Ableton's stock plugins. You probably already know everything about external sidechaining, but I want to go over some unique things that you can do with the EQ filters for external sidechaining. Now I have this bass track for you. Let me go ahead and play you the bass track. And I have a compressor now on the bass track, and I will turn it on, and I will turn on the sidechain, and I can do audio from drums. And let's say I only have this drum loop or I have a drum bus, then I can actually use the EQ filter here to filter out that top end so that I am just using that kick to trigger the sidechain. Otherwise, if I didn't use this EQ filter, then basically everything would be triggering this compressor, like those top loops and that hi-hat. And we really just want that bass to duck underneath the kick. Let's go ahead and check it out. With the drums now. And that might be a way that we use this EQ filter for the external sidechaining. We could also go down here, and there's some options for using it pre-effects, post-effects, and post-mixer. Most of the time, post-effects will be fine. I could actually do the audio from bass, though, and then this will automatically set it to pre-effects. Now what is happening is I'm using this dry bass signal to trigger the compressor. Let's say I have some reverb on the bass here, but I want this compressor to trigger from that dry bass because that reverb is really washing out the bass. Then I can do sidechain, turn on audio from the bass, and then it's set to pre-effects. Where this might be useful is if you have a vocal and you have a reverb on that vocal, you could actually put a compressor after the reverb, set the external sidechain to the dry vocal or the vocal with the pre-effects, and then you will have that reverb ducking underneath that vocal so that it comes back up in between the empty spaces of that vocal. And that's a really nice way to make your vocal sit in the front of the mix while having this nice long reverb tail. What I could do to show you that example is I could put these into a group now, and I have the reverb at 100%. And then I will go ahead and create a reverb chain, and then I will create a clean chain. Now this is going to be 100% reverb with this sidechain compressor. And let's go ahead and just solo the bass here. And I will turn off the compressor. And that's with a more drastic setting. And let's check out the reverb and the clean bass together. And even in that example, whenever I turn this compressor on and off, you could hear how adding that reverb behind the bass actually sounded kind of nice whenever I had it sidechained to the dry bass, but whenever I turned the compressor off, then it sounded way too washed out. So there you have it. I hope that that helped you understand the differences between internal and external sidechaining. If you truly want to improve your mixing skills, then check out my Modern Mix Academy. This is a full online mixing course that will help you step by step understand how to improve your mixing skills from the comfort of your own home and help you make amazing records that you can be proud to share with your friends, family, and your fans. And I'll put a link down below for you to check that out. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.